Nonverbal communication. I told you earlier that nonverbal communication was a very integral and important part of communication. It becomes more important because no words are used. And when no words are used, it can lead to a lot of misunderstanding. Therefore, one has to be very, very cautious about the use of nonverbal communication. Statistics tells us that 55% of communication is passed on simply through expressions of the face. So sometimes you may understand an expression completely wrong, and therefore it can lead to misunderstandings. So expressions have to be right. 7% of it is verbal and 38% of it is vocal. So this 55% is what we are really talking about right now, and that is nonverbal communication, the most critical part of communicating without the use of any words. The first, as I told you, is facial expressions. Facial expressions can show anger, joy, irritation. All the possible gamut of emotions can be shown through facial expressions. A wrong expression in a wrong place can create a break in communication completely. Eye contact, a very, very strong and powerful form of communication. They say that eye contact is an invisible bond between the speaker and the listener. So when a person is communicating with someone, you're instantly creating a bond by looking at the person in the eye. When you don't look at a person in the eye, there is a feeling of, God knows whether he's true, whether he's honest. Maybe that's why he's not looking into my eyes and speaking. Shifty eyes often give an impression that people can very, very easily misunderstand. The next is tone of voice. Tone of voice is the way you raise and lower your voice when you are speaking. A very clear example of this would be an advertisement that used to come ages ago of a particular product called as Pan Pasand. The tagline went, Pan Pasand, Gazab ki mithas. And it would show the same words spoken in two tones. For example, शादी और तुमसे कभी नहीं. It sounds very cajoling, very nice. शादी और तुमसे कभी नहीं. Anger, irritation. So therefore the tone of voice can immediately present the personality of the person or what is the present state of mind of the person who is communicating with you. The next one is body posture. A confident person is a great communicator. When your body is slouched, bent, not showing any energy, you will not be able to make an impact with the person. So therefore, carrying your body in the right way, like take for example, you're making a presentation and you are nervous. You have a tendency to swerve, move here and there. They always say, place your feet firmly on the ground, a little apart from each other. Press onto it. Use your hand as much as you want, but don't move your feet. In that way, you are focused on the position where you are in and your position remains confident. It becomes very easy for a person in front of you to understand a confident speaker and to even react positively to a confident speaker. The next one is personal space. Please note, each one of us has a bubble of space around us and we allow people to come into that bubble only depending upon how much we know or like the person. See, when you're in a crowded train or bus, you have no option but to press yourself against people whom you don't know also. But in most official situations, you have your own space, your boss has his own space. Notice, when you enter into a boss's cabin, you are speaking to a boss who has a table in front of him. The table is indicative of a space. He is not allowing you to come beyond that space because that is the space he maintains for himself. Whereas when his very dear friend comes, he moves out of the space, comes forward to to greet him and maybe even hug him. Because the personal space between your boss and his friend is much closer than between you and your boss. So this is the meaning of personal space. Each one of us has the right to create our space, and intruding or encroaching into somebody else's space can even be called as insulting the person. It is a means of communication saying, you stand where you are because that's where you can come, you cannot come closer than that to me. When you do a handshake, you hold hands, but your body is far apart. You may notice that in foreign context, when people greet each other, they just touch each other's cheek. That is a formal way of communicating and saying, yes, we are business partners, but we also have our distance. That is the meaning of personal space through which you communicate a lot of things. The next is paralanguage. Paralanguage refers to your tone, pitch, quality of voice, and also rate of speaking. Rate of speaking, I mean speed. Take for example, when you are very nervous and you want to finish off as quickly as you want, you are speaking much faster than at normal times when you are relaxed. So your state of mind is indicative through the way you are speaking. Tone of voice, as we already told you, that tone of voice can be low, can be grim, can be harsh, can be loud, and in all possible ways, it will only communicate what the speaker wants to communicate to the listener. The other one, verbal communication that we have is very, very interesting. It means silence. Now you may ask, how do we communicate through silence? I'll give you an example. You need money in order to go for a picnic with your friends. But on that very day, you have also got your results. And your results are very bad. Now you have to get a signature on your answer paper from your father. But unfortunately, on the same day, you also have to ask him money in order to go for a picnic. So you show your paper to the father and say, Dad, I have not done very well, but I promise to do better. His father is very grim. He is not saying anything. He looks at your paper up and down. You wait. Finally, he has signed it. So now one of your work is accomplished. Over. Now you move to the next. Dad, we are going for a picnic tomorrow. I need 1,000 rupees. Father is looking at you in grim silence. His silence is indicative of the fact you're not going to get a penny. You have failed marks, which I just now signed, and now you have the audacity to ask me money for a picnic? Sorry, you don't get it. But instead of saying no, he just looks at you grimly and then begins to read the paper. You have been answered through his silence that it is not going to work. So silence is very, very indicative. Silence can be a very strong means of communication in many situations. Like someone is overcome with grief, they are not able to speak. Someone is overcome with anger, they cannot speak. Someone is overcome with joy, even then they cannot speak. So therefore, silence can have different meanings according to different connotations, and you have to be perceptive enough to understand when silence is being used to communicate what. And lastly, in non-verbal communication, we also have signs, symbols and posters. As I told you before, this could be a part of visual communication as well. But since it is not using any words, we can also use it as non-verbal communication. I could be holding a placard saying, save water. And instead of opening my mouth and saying, there is no water in this area, please help us save water, I am only holding a placard. And I am clearly indicating through what is written over there that I expect everyone to do their best in order to save water for this particular village. So this is the means of signs and symbols and posters. About signs and symbols, you may be very aware of a traffic police who is using a left hand to show that the left is open, a right hand to show that the right is open. The signals with their colors like green, red and yellow indicating of the various positions that the vehicles have to take at that point of time without opening their mouth. So therefore, signs, symbols and posters are also a means of non-verbal communication. So once again a repeat of what is non-verbal communication. We have all the parameters like facial expressions, eye contact, tone of voice, body posture, personal space, paralanguage, silence, signs, symbols and postures. We move on to the next part of our topic, and that is cross-cultural communication.